Welcome to the Week in Italian Startup, where we discuss the latest highlights happening in the Italian tech and investment ecosystem. Starting off with Kurbs Orbital Capital Space Tech raising 3.7 million in a round led by Otb Ventures, joined by Credo Ventures, Galaxia, In-Q-Tel, and Inovo. So space techs, it's up and running in Italy. It's giving like excellent results, responsible of quite substantial raises so far, and this is perfectly in this specific pattern. So that's it's a very interesting one. What is interesting about Kurbs is that they're developing this module that essentially supports other satellite to move orbit or eventually like get out of orbit in case of disposal. So it's a very specific angle in the space economy, and it kind of confirms what we've been seeing, like sort of the service part of space. So it seems like there is enough things going on up there that more company working on those company to service. It's one of the way to go. What is your feel on this, Nick?
No, I agree with you. It's a thriving market currently in Europe, at least, and in Italy. So it is very interesting seeing all of these companies and also hard companies coming out of this space and raising capital from international investors, actually, not just from this side of the Atlantic. Did you notice from the list?
Yes, absolutely. What is interesting is, so first of all, I thought it was interesting because, like, let's start from the Europeans and then we move away from from Europe. So, OTB, venture investor, 3 funds, essentially, working in deep tech, specifically on space tech, AI, automation, and cybersecurity, and a little bit of fintech. Based in Amsterdam, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so it seems, yes.
And secondly, I didn't know Credo Ventures, which is a pretty interesting fund from the Czech Republic. So it's a pan-European fund, not the usual sort of location of for a headquarter in VC, but definitely like things. It's a powerful message. Things are moving, and maybe we will see like concentration of specialized VC, maybe in certain areas of the world. So definitely interesting to notice. Going away, well, okay, we need to mention Galaxia, of course. Basically,
Of course, the Italian
yeah,
lingo.
of course, the Italian flagged CDP accelerator for space. So that's very interesting. And In-Q-Tel, yeah, I think we talked about In-Q-Tel like a few years back. We
Yeah, we
had
met them.
something like,
Mhm. We
yeah,
met them already.
so essentially it's the fund which is backed by CIA to actually invest in strategic technologies all across the planet. And these guys got a good contact with these people. So interesting investor for sure.
Yeah, it's always a weird thing seeing the CIA run investment fund investing in something, in particular things that touch infrastructure. In this case, it literally touches infrastructure, so moving and servicing satellite rounds in orbit. So it is kind of interesting, but um, nice and
Also,
interesting set of investors.
yeah, I didn't check the portfolio, but I'm definitely curious on what is their like sort of selection process. Definitely like not necessarily like military or strategic, but definitely like deep tech. That's probably the core. But it seems pretty detached from what one might think of a CIA operation, like a startup investing thesis, I would say. So it's interesting,
Well,
and
I'm looking at
they've been
the
pretty active.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Crunchbase page for their investments, and from the labels, grouping the category of startups they invested in, there is a lot of software, but software is anything. Cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, manufacturing, enterprise software, security. So, of course, there is a theme underlying with their investments. And then, if I look at the latest investment they made, Orbital is the latest, but then Mabel Quantum Industries, Nucleus Security, Armada.
Makes
So
sense.
yeah. So
Interesting.
spacecraft manufacturing, high Earth orbit robotics. There's a lot of investments in space tech. Probably from the names, at least three companies out of the latest 10.
Very good. Very good.
Hmm.
Maybe that's definitely worth a deep dive into the In-Q-Tel portfolio, and then get banned from YouTube because we go too deep on this. So that's
Well, banned from YouTube is not the worst thing that could happen, but
indeed, people knocking on the door. That's the worst
exactly,
thing, probably.
exactly.
All right. Moving on. Let's talk about Proptech. So Proptech seems to hold strong in general, especially in the co-living and co-working space. With WAO, Proptech startup raising 800 K in a pre-seed round from OneDay and other business angel. So WAO is an acronym for We Are Open, and essentially they're trying to build and manage co-working spaces and kind of rethink the co-living sort of deal. It's a trend that has been like active for a few years now with different experiments both across the US and Europe with different way of handling it, with good and bad results, and as everyone knows, of course. But yeah, interesting take. What is interesting is that this company has been launched inside OneDay, which is responsible for a few very interesting Italian startups that are still active and working really well. So that's their next project. I think the founder has a background also in real estate development in general, so it's a good combo. So let's see how exactly they're gonna play this card.
Yeah, agree with you. This company actually reminds me of a chart that I was looking the other day in the Exponential View newsletter. It's great publication. It was this interesting chart where in the US there was the average distance from the office for people, no? Basically, so how far away you live from your office, and there is a before and then after the pandemic, and in particular for the um, more or less not millennials, but also the generation after. Average
Yeah, Gen
distance,
Z. Yeah.
Gen Z has grown a lot by several kilometers. So on average, workers are living further away from their working locations after the pandemic than before the pandemic. And they wonder whether this type of approaches, such as WOW, kind of address this change in dynamic in society, and whether this change in dynamic is happening in Italy or in Europe as well. Because I don't know. I think there are different effects in demographics and in the way um, we approach our home and the place where we live with respect to the US. But I mean, it'd be very nice, very interesting to look into this dynamic.
Yeah,
I don't
and
know whether.
how that's going to change actually the hiring dynamics, because
Mm,
a lot of new employees, they're looking for companies where of course they can do remote work, and which actually allow people to work remotely pretty freely, and that can be like a differentiator for the future of like big corporation.
yeah.
I mean, tech companies are prepared for that up to a certain point, but you know, not every company is a tech company. So let's see how it's gonna go.
Yeah, I wonder if at the limit something like WoW becomes the place where you live and work, but you work there. It's not exactly from home. If you merge the living environment and the working environment, it's not your employer headquarter, but you are working out of the place where you live, sort of in a community of workers around you. So I mean, I don't know. It's an interesting dynamic.
Yes, it's not easy to wrap your mind around after
Mhm.
years of commuting, finding work, and going around and everything. And I wonder, like from a human standpoint, now maybe maybe there is value in commuting, at least a little bit of commuting, just to change environment, to change like place where you work. Well, mentally, I think it's proven that if you change your work environment, actually, to some extent, your productivity can improve or actually not improve. So there are studies about it. But thinking of working exactly where you live and doing it repetitively without moving or doing anything, that can be, I don't know, that can be alienating in the same way the traffic back in the days is when you spend 12 hours in the office. So maybe the future is, you know, diffused company, multiple location in different co-working across different regions. You pick where you work, you just stick on the schedule. I don't know.
I don't know. In a sense, if you think about it, it's not so different than studying and living on campus at university. I mean, if you live on campus,
Good point.
you are in the same place where you sleep, eat, and study substantially. So you're merging not with your family, but you're merging your living and working environment in the same, more or less the same place. Uh, well, I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't know,
Let's
but
see. Let's see how it.
food for
Who's
food
gonna
for
crack
thought.
this code?
Exactly.
That's super interesting.
Moving
All
on.
right, moving on. Let's talk about Femtech. So Femtech has had a lot of visibility in the past years. When we talk about Femtech, we talk about basically anything technology or service enabled technology that is supporting women's need in particular. Uh, and it's been developing like pretty fast in a very different areas actually. And in Italy also we have we just had a good example, which is this unique startup offering environmentally sustainable menstrual pads, raising 500,000 in a bridge round. Investors are Ulixes Capital Partner, Moonstone, and Longevity Life Holdings. So talking about the service first, they had a pretty impressive growth, about like 40,000 subscriber to the service. So definitely they struck a very interesting nerve here. And among the investor, yes, some really like forward-looking funds. Ulixes is one. Moonstone is like a micro fund, just funded, basically. So one of the braves that try to launch a VC fund from scratch. So kudos to the people in Moonstone for sure. And very interesting bet here, but super solid. So it's a great new wave of industry, I would say.
Yeah, agreed.
What is also interesting is that the femtech trend is really touching a lot of things, and I was researching a little bit the different areas that basically it's like tech and femtech sort of like is developing, and it touches a lot, including anything which is advanced maternal care, menopause management with AI, novel skincare product, fertility automation, AI virtual assistants, precision oncology, sexual health products, pelvic care, women safety tech. So it's really, touching a lot of tech and applying it to very specific use case, and which is massive. Is probably more than half of the population on the planet, with some specific needs which
Yeah,
men don't have. So
I
that's extremely powerful.
look. If you enlarge the view, in a sense, there is an infinite market here. I was in a conversation, and not my, again, I don't know why I was in that conversation, but people more knowledgeable than me was pointing out that historically a lot of tests and research in the pharmaceutical industry, drugs and stuff like that, were made on the average patient, thinking that the average patient is a white male weighing 80 kilos. And that's not true for at least half of the population, let alone
That's so true.
different color and different skin color and different weight and so on and so forth. So probably there's an entire drug industry that's tuned totally wrong for half of the population. Uh, So if you just go beyond the specific needs and look at the current applications that are sort of wrong for that market,
It unlocks
it's like
a
mind blowing.
total new market, and I agree with you. Totally mind blowing. It's basically is rethinking a lot of like product and service, basically tweaking this major assumption, which is false for sure. So very interesting take for sure. All right, so let's talk about Bending Spoons. So these guys are not stopping. So Bending Spoon is considering a potential acquisition of Vimeo Inc. I think from the information I gather, they've been trying to talks with they're in talks with banks about financing the potential transaction. So probably it's going to be leveraged by banks. And again, is basically another potential hit for Bending Spoon team, which is essentially like growing like crazy by acquisition, and is a great example on how actually to scale by acquisition.
Um, and I would add that Vimeo is a public company. And I was looking at the numbers, of course. So just to give you context, Vimeo is like a 900 million market cap, as a 900 million market cap. It's like 400 million revenues. It's profitable, 300 million of cash available, and trading 2 times the revenue. So it's not,
Interesting.
but the market is not loving Vimeo. Still, it's quite a huge bite for Benny Spoons. That's probably a $500 million revenues company right now. Um, I find it as an interesting move. Is kind of an important operation if they go go ahead with it.
Yeah, I mean, if I can add something, I was thinking this morning is that it's they are having this like acquisition strategy, a strategy like is nostalgic 2000s. So everything they're acquiring is basic was in my phone on my phone, or I used when I was early 2000 in university. Like Evernote, loved it 100%. Vimeo, I used to use it as well for video hosting, was great. And Meetup, who didn't check out Meetup at least when abroad? So it's kind of a nostalgic 2000 like a strategy. That's the best thing I can think of.
Did you just unveil the strategy? Now, now, now the question is, what's next? What did you
You know what I
use?
can do? I can pull up my old iPhone, check in the apps that I have installed then. I'm sure it's gonna be there.
Yeah, that's very nice. Okay, okay, let's do that. Let's do that. Because I'm thinking of what I was using, but I don't think they're going to try to acquire Facebook.
Yeah, I don't
So
think so. I don't think so.
that's probably too much. What else? What else? What are they missing? Well, they're missing a messaging app.
Uh-huh.
Since WhatsApp is off the table, Telegram
Good
is
point.
probably up for grabs for the right price. I don't
Maybe,
know.
maybe. Interesting. Let's see how it's gonna develop.
Uh,
Awesome. All right. So let's talk about something close to Primo Venture, actually. So Italian artisan acquired Ad hoc Atelier and raised 750K from Primo Ventures. So Ad hoc Atelier has been in portfolio of Primo. So what are some insights, Nick, on these specific deals?
Well, it's B2B marketplace that basically is giving access to the entire artisanal manufacturing capability in Italy to anybody who want to access it. So because today is a very opaque market, with great professionality and great quality. So the basic idea is make the Alibaba of the Italian quality art, starting from craftsmanship and fashion accessories. But of course, if you can think of enlarging the base, but just that market is a few billion euros market in internal consumption and in exports. So this is the starting point, the initial idea, and I'm executing greatly on that idea. But then we met. They met the team of Ad Hoc Atelier. There is a um, great opportunity for integrating the two platforms. Ad Hoc Atelier, they have a great, let's say B2C is a more consumer side, selected luxury items. So they basically added this consumer-like approach to presenting and telling the story of the product. That was what we were missing with in Italian artisan. Italian artisan is very focused on the artisans, and they are now starting to think about uh, the consumer, the customer. So it was a perfect match. We continued investing in the company, and they merged, and now they are already growing very fast and doing great things.
Awesome. And they're leveraging, yeah, the idea of slow fashion. So artisan first, customization, craftsmanship of a small Italian artists, and trying to blow it like across the globe. So that's a very interesting sort of that's kind of seeing the new made in Italy, tech augmented and powered. So that's powerful. That's definitely
Yeah,
powerful.
that's the basic idea. So made in Italy as you want it, not as you can get it on only on high street. Let's say so.
Yeah, love it. All right, let's finish with Azimut planning to launch a GP staking product on the Italian market. So let's get a little bit nerdy on this one really quick. What is interesting is that basically for the listener, so let's provide some context on what is GP staking in general. So in general, GP staking is investing and buying passive minority equity stake in asset managers, particularly in private equity firms. So essentially, the general dynamics in fund is that investor invest in like in the fund itself. So LPs are taking pieces of an entity, which is the fund, and from which GPs basically pull out the money and make investments where they have like full control. In GP staking, basically, investors are actually buying stake into the management company that actually is owned by GPs and participates into all the benefits. And so the carry structure and the GP share of the fund. So it's a way of actually for institutional investors, for investors to actually eventually double dip on a fund where you can be an LP in the fund plus an investor into the GP entity, or purely considering like GP staking and having a strategy where you only buy stakes into the management company, into the asset management company, in the case of Italy, into the SGR. So this is a model that has been common in the US, especially in private equity. I don't think I was looking whether there are like venture capitalists doing that. I cannot think of anyone particular doing GP stakes exclusively with venture capital like GP management companies. I don't think that's common. Probably someone tried. But yeah, they're trying to bring this model in Italy, maybe starting from the PE side, and then probably also diversifying into other alternatives like SGR working in venture capital. So very interesting dynamic. What is your reaction to this, Nick? What do you think of this?
And, weird. Okay, that's weird. I never thought that was actually a financial product, but I think um, the main takeaway here is anything that touches money can be a financial product, and there will be someone wanting to purchase a stake in that financial product. And kudos to Azimut for finding financial products to put on the market everywhere.
Exactly, they're really good at that. They take the money, they see what it touches, and they just
What do you
productize
want?
it.
Just let me know. I can build a product for you around that.
It's insane. It's insane. But what is interesting maybe is that funds of funds have been active for a while. Maybe the same logic of funds will apply to GP staking. So it's are there gonna be like full GP staking funds only investing in GP management companies? So I don't know if it's a thing or maybe it's a strategy, but I'm sure someone is going to experiment on this.
But so I have no idea how that work because I mean I have some knowledge, some working knowledge of how the management company works, and it's mostly a box containing people working on the funds and managing the deals, and the cash flow of the box is basically fees and probably not always part of the carried interest coming from the funds. Depends on the structure,
Uh-huh.
but basically most of the credit goes to GPs, not strictly speaking to the management company. The management company, I think it's not unusual to have a stake in the funds, so a GP position, let's say so. But still,
Got it.
fees should tend to cover costs, so they don't create a huge amount of cash flow. So I think
So
it's
yeah, that's
it's
a good point.
interesting.
So
It's interesting.
what is the asset then there? Because if as an investor I'm not participating to the carry because then goes directly to the operational GPs, which it makes sense.
Most of it should go to the. It
Most of
is
it, yeah, yeah.
supposed to be to the GPs.
Suppose.
Otherwise, the fees will just go to another fund that pays more carry, right? So when you ask what is the assets are probably in large part GPs, in large part, not only. For many players, brands. I mean, Sequoia is Sequoia. Name 5 GPs in Sequoia. You might have a hard time out of your head. But
So true.
Sequoia is Sequoia. But not everybody is Sequoia. So I'm taking a venture capital example, but KKR, let's take
Absolutely.
any structured enough private equity firm, and you will probably have a hard time naming 5 GPs from there. Still, quite curious about that product and the implications. So never thought about it.
Very interesting to see how exactly it's gonna play and how they're gonna allocate and how to market it. That's an interesting take. I would be super curious to see how that moves in the future. Maybe
Yeah, and
it's going to be a thing also in the VC space. Maybe.
and I'm pretty sure someone listening to this podcast will have more hands-on ideas and than me. So please reach out and tell me what I'm seeing wrong, what I'm wrong.
Awesome. Nick, all right. Thank you for joining. This concludes our episode for the week. And thank you everyone for listening. And I'll see you next week.
Thank you, Jack. Take care. Ciao, everybody. See you in a week.